Melochim Perichet Halacha Beis. V'chein boil isha b'giyusa im tokfa yitzchak. And so too he can have a relationship with a woman while she's still non-Jewish if he's overcome by his desire. So the Peirush says that the kingdom of Beis David which is a saver, points out that the words are referring to what we said in Halacha Aleph, and you shall capture from them that just like he's permitted to eat food which is forbidden when he doesn't have what to eat, so too he's permitted to live with a non-Jewish when he captures them and his desire overcomes him. But he's not permitted to rape her and leave her. Basically, he has to bring him into her into his house. Because it says in Devarim 21, verses 11 and 12, and you shall see Vashivya among the captives, a woman who is beautiful, and desire her, and you take it to your house. But when it's forbidden to also live but to have a second relationship with her is forbidden until he takes her as a wife, and there is a certain order. She has to become a convert before he can do that. The case of Mishnah cites that Tosis in Kedushin 22a cite the Yerushalmi, we find also in the Bavli that Rav permitted the first relationship when she's a convert, when she's a non-Jewish, before she's a convert, and he forbids the second one until she do the order, as we find in Devarim 21, 11 through 13. Shmuel forbids even the first one until he does that first order of having her cut her hair and wait 30 days. And by Issa, V'Yisuri Halacha, when it comes to Isur, the question is the Halacha is always, according to Rav, by forbiddenness, and like Shmuel by money. Therefore, the Rambam permits the first relationship even when she's non-Jewish, if it's during war. There's a Mishnah questions from the Smak that he said to Yerushalmi and Shabbos, the Rav permits the relationship, the second one by a woman is beautiful only after all that's happened. Rabbi Yochanan forbids it, even the first one, until after everything. And here there's another rule that whenever Rav and Rabbi Yochanan disagree, the halacha is like Rabbi Yochanan. So we have one situation where the halacha should be like Rav. Why then does he say the halacha is like should be like Rabbi Yochanan? And he answers that he codifies the halacha from what's brought in the Bavli in Sanhedrin 21a, that Tamar was the daughter of David HaMelech, who he had from a Torah, which is a woman who was taken in captivity, and Amnon, who was the son of David HaMelech from another wife, wanted to marry Tamar. And she told him, as we find in Shmuel 2, chapter 13, verse 13, speak to the king. She says to him, why rape me? He will not keep me from you. After he gave birth to Tamar, after he married her mother, how could Tamar think that she's permitted to Amnon? Because even if she's only a sister from the father, she's forbidden. You must say that she was or conceived from that first relationship, that while she was still a non-Jewish, and therefore Tamar was permitted to Amnon, because she's not the son of David, because a son that comes from a non-Jewish is not called his son. As you find in Yevamah 17a, because from the first relationship, from the second relationship, after she's converted and done everything, she's not called a Torah, she's his wife. And since there's a Gemara in the Bavli that specifically agrees with Rav that David had a daughter from Bostoner and while she was non-Jewish, therefore we see the Rambam says the Halacha is like Rav, even though Yerushalmi Rabbi Yochanan disagrees. The Achido, Guvei Halachas, question. That's not a Stam Gemara. Rav said it according to his opinion, the Yerushalmi, that the first relationship is permitted immediately, as we find in the Rashba in Kedushin 22a, and in the Ran in Sanhedrin 21a. However, it's still difficult. How could Thomas say that Amnon should be permitted? According to Rabbi Yochanan, the first relationship is forbidden until after all the deeds are done, and she's converted, and therefore her mother was from David only after she was converted. And Tamar was considered the daughter of David and the sister of Amnon. It must be that you have to explain like Tosfos that Tamar was born before the mother, in other words, was conceived or born before her mother was taken to David as Bostoner. She was not Bas David. He only brought her up according to Rabbi Yochanan, and therefore she was permitted to Amnon. But the questions on the Kesef Mishnah that Rambam codifies the Halacha like the Gemara in Bavli, when he explains, the Rav says according to his opinion, and we have to explain like the Ritvo, that the Bavli is of the opinion like Rav, because it doesn't mention at all the words of Rabbi Yochanan. And therefore the Halacha should be like Rav, because whenever we have the Bavli and the Yerushalmi, we go according to the Bavli. Abulafia explains that the inference of the Bavli that Halacha is like Rav, the Gemara did not question it's his daughter, like Rabbi Yochanan. It says, if you're saying she was the daughter after marriage, then she's not considered the daughter of an illicit relationship. So it must be because of Rav's svara that the relationship that he had with Bostoner is not considered an illicit relationship. The Achabavafia explains the diuk of the Bavli, the Halacha is like Rav, that the Gemara did not question it's his daughter. It's rather said, if you think it would seem she's not Bas Nus. The Rambam writes, if Bas Torah that become pregnant from the first relationship, the child is not his son, because it's a child of a Goya. He has to go through all of conversion, and they Bezdin caused the person the child to be converted, and Toma was from that first relationship, and Avshalom was noted from the second one after the Suin, and Toma was the sister of Avshalom from his mother, but she was still permitted to Amnon. So too, it's Rambam says so too, just like in Yitrei Pharmacy, if his desires overcome him, he can live with a non-Jewish woman. So I guess the Mishnah cites a brisa. The Torah only spoke about the Yetzer Hara, and only because his desire overcomes him. The Kesef Mishnah explains that even according to the Rav, the Rambam says the Halacha like him, it's forbidden the second relationship until after all of the actions of conversion. Now, Halacha Gimel, it says that the first relationship, while she's non-Jewish, is permitted before all the actions. And the Kesef Mishnah cites the Brisa in Kedushin 22a. How do you know that he should not force her during the war? Because it says he should bring her to his home. And even the first one is only permitted after he brings her home. Thus the Rambam understood that during the war he should not force her, that he's forbidden to have a relationship with her immediately, but only after he brings her home, and he does so in a modest fashion. Hilchos Yesodei HaTorah, it forbids one to take a non-Jewish through marriage, and somebody who lives with her in an illicit relationship would get lashes rabbinically, because it's only forbidden rabbinically. Maybe he'll come to marry her, and therefore, so we shouldn't make a mistake. He adds that this sin, even though there's no death penalty, should not be light in your eyes, because there is a loss that there is nothing similar to it in all the forbidden relationships. Because if somebody has a child from a forbidden relationship, it's his child. It's part of Klal Yisrael, even if he's a mamzer. But if you have it from a non-Jewish, it's not considered his son, as it says in Dvorim, because he will take your son away from me, and that will cause him to be attached to Avodah Zarah. And he adds, somebody has a relationship with a non-Jewish, whether it's through marriage or as a supposed marriage, mating, or illicit relationship, publicly, in front of 10 of Yisrael or more, there's a law that Kanoim, those who are zealots, can kill him, and it's Halacha Moshe Sinai. And the proof is from Zimri that who took Kozi Basur to the eyes of all Yisrael, and Pinchas killed him. Questions. According to the Rambam, it's permitted to have a relationship with the Torah only at home and modestly. What's the difference between her and any other non-Jewish if she converted? Lechem Mishnah explains that I asked, according to the Rambam, if you will have a relationship publicly, Halacha Moshe Sinai would be that Kanoim Poigim Boy, and with sin of Beisoim, there's no Issa Torah, even on a Goya. Why do you need a posuk to permit it if that's the case? And Lechem Mishnah explains that since he took her to, everybody knows about it, he's taking her to have a relationship with her, and even though he brings her into the house, that's considered public. That's why the Torah has to tell us that it's permitted. So Yosef points out that zealots can kill him is only at the moment of relationship, and other non-Jewishes he brings to his house, even though a zealot cannot kill him, he transgresses on the forbiddenness. If Torah is not called public when he brings it to his house, by another non-Jewish that he brings to his house, it's called public regarding the forbiddenness. The difference would be when you transgress, a person who transgresses is forbidden to be a state witness. When the Gemara questions on Esther HaMalka, that she was taken to Achashverosh, is a proof just being taken is considered public, like the Lechem Mishnah. Because by Esther, she was taken, and obviously when she was brought to the castle of Achashverosh, that was considered public. The Pri Adomo questions on the Lechem Mishnah. Since the law of Kanaim Poigim Boy, you need public, like Zimri, it could be if it's not public, there's no forbiddenness at all. And therefore he says that the novelty of the idea is you need a pasuk to tell us it's permitted, even if she was married to a goy. Like Mosdos writes, that even though halachically regarding a Jew, the wife of a goy is not considered his wife, still you can't steal her because she belongs to him. Therefore the Torah had to say that the Torah is permitted to be taken. Therefore, according to the Rosh Yosef, in the words and his understanding of Lechem Mishnah, it's forbidden to take her. The one who takes her, when it's forbidden, would be forbidden to be a witness. According to the Pri Adomo, there's no Issa Torah. It would not be forbidden to state witness. Els Melochim Berek Ches, Halacha Beis. We're continuing this Sifrei de Beirav of David Pardo by Kiseitze. Questions on the Halacha Mishnah. When he takes the Vastoya to the city, it is, you might think he's taking her for a maidservant, not as a wife. And even if he says that he takes her to live with her, that's not called b'fayasya, because it could be that he will not have a relationship with her. Therefore, he explains that according to the Rambam, only if he lived with her, he transgresses on. You should not have a relationship with her, and if it's done privately, it's forbidden because it's considered the immorality. And since if Astorah takes her with the thought of setting her aside to be his wife, then it's considered a way of marriage, and therefore the Torah had to permit it. Even that first relationship, should be considered not a immoral relationship, but rather a relationship that brings to marriage. And so the Rash Al-Ghazi, the Rosh Yosef, say that according to the Rambam, the first relationship is permitted even when she's a non-Jewess, when he wants to marry her and take her to his house and take her ultimately as a wife, when he goes through all the other processes they have to do with the Yavas Torah. After Melchemes Midian, it says in Bamidbar 31, verse 14, Moshe was very angry with the leaders of the army. The Gemara brings down, Naaman said, Moshe said to the Yisrael, maybe you again sinned with Bnei Midian? They said to him, no, nobody was lost from us. None of us sinned. So Moshe says, why do you say we will bring a korban Hashem if you didn't sin? What do you need to atone for? But he said, actual sin we did not perform, but we may have had thoughts about doing things that we did not do. So Tosfos asks over there that even if Astorah is permitted to them, and there's no concept of having an evil thought, why should they have to bring a atonement on their thought? And the answer, but there's still a forbiddenness, like we find in Kedushin. And when you live with one, you should think about that wife and not another woman. And the Maharam explains that maybe the person at war really had intended to take two beautiful women, and he took one even though he wanted both. And he brings the atonement for the fact that he thought about taking the second one. Prima Godol pushes this off, that maybe you can have in thought as long as you don't do an action. Who says that that's forbidden? As long as it's just like, technically you could say it's like going out on a date with two people, and you're thinking of which one you want to marry. And therefore he answers, like the Gufi Halachas, that the first relationship that was permitted is only on condition he'll take her home. And they thought about taking them without bringing them home. And that thought is what they had to do, to bring an offering for, to atone for that thought. So the question is, the Kohen is permitted in Yavas Torah only the first relationship. After that, he would be forbidden to marry her, because she's a divorcee. She's not a divorcee. She's a convert. Therefore, the first one is even when he's not going to live with her as a wife afterwards. And if this is the basis of the permission for the first relationship, why is a Kohen allowed to do it? The Melochim says, and he can have a relationship with a woman, because it's talking about by a war which is not an obligatory war, and even in a permissible war, a Yavas Torah was permitted, and you can eat forbidden foods for those who are in the army if they're hungry, as we mentioned. The Mishnah Melech cites Dvarim 21, verse 10. When you go out to war, Rashi says that it's talking about specifically about a Melchemes Reshus, a war of choice, as opposed to a war of mitzvah. That when the 7 nations, it was impossible to say you'll take one of them, because it says you should not have any of them live. The Leiv Aryeh explains that according to the Rambam, the heter for those who go out to war and to take a Yifas Torah is even by a permissible war of choice, not a war specifically of mitzvah. But he questions like Rashi that in the war against the 7 nations, which is the Melochim mitzvah, it says Lo Yisachai Kol Neshama. The Minchas Chinuch explains, according to the Rambam, Lo Yisachai Kol Neshama is talking about by shvuyim, by captives that he does not want to take as a wife. And he explains, by other nations, having a relationship is forbidden in Torah when it's done publicly, like Lecha Mishnah. And since that his intent is to take a woman to marriage, he's transgressing technically on not to have a marriage with them. Therefore, the Torah had to tell us that Yifas Torah is permitted, and even from the 7 nations, because like the Torah only goes negative Yetzirah. Therefore, even from the 7 nations, not only Melochim mitzvah, they were permitted to take a Yifas Torah. And he infers that the Chinuch doesn't mention by Yifas Torah that it's talking only about a specific war of choice, because it would be even by a war of mitzvah you could take. Chinuch infers that since the Rambam doesn't bring from the Sefer Yifas Torah that it applies by Melochim by a war of choice, that he's of the opinion it would take effect even by the 7 nations, and even by Amalek, like the Torah forbidden foods by every war. That nobody disagrees about. Mekeves HaMishnah infers that the Rambam disagrees on Rashi. Mekeves HaMishnah infers that the Rambam disagrees on Rashi. It says that in Machon Nesher of the 7 nations, you are commanded Lo Yisachai Kol Neshama. And Yifas Torah was not permitted. The Chinuch counts Yifas Torah as a separate mitzvah. The Rambam, in the beginning of Hilchos Melochim, counts 23 mitzvahs. And the 21st is Yifas Torah. Also, by Sefer mitzvahs, he says that if you see it, you're allowed to take her. Also, in the short mitzvahs of the Rambam, he says you have to do a certain order, as it says in the Parsha, that is a separate mitzvah by itself.